Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Mr. R2 here at Consistency is Currency. Like we say, your morning podcast of choice. I'm going to do something just a little bit different today. We're going to light a candle. Why? Because, hell, that's just how I feel. So, I'm going to light a candle by this. I've had these for a while. I just never really just lit them up like that. So, this is from a company called Bright Lights. Big City Candle Company. I think they're out of Copper's Cove. Um, and the name of this candle is called Man Cave. So I'm gonna light some Man Cave here inside of the studio as we begin to talk about our conversation today, which is called You Confront You. So let me light this candle called Man Cave. So if you're interested in knowing more about this company, look them up. Bright Lights, Big City Candle Co. And again, the candle fragrance that I'm lighting today is called Man Cave. So I like manly candles. I'm not really about all the tropical fruit punch and all that other stuff. I'm about things that smell manly. Put you in that space to where you feel masculine. You smelling your candles. You're like, oh, like I like the way this smells. That's just me. Um, yeah. So let me go ahead and put the caption up real quick. Again, we're talking about You Confront You. Like always, we start in a spirit of gratitude. We say thank you. We appreciate you for being here. We give you your roses, your flowers in the morning, just to let you know that I appreciate you because you don't have to be here at 7:30 in the morning. You can be anywhere and doing anything, but you're right here sharing in this digital space. So thank you, and my hat's off to you. I'm not gonna take my hat off. My hat's off to you, but I appreciate just being able to be um, the vessel, in the morning that you're able to be poured into, from the things that we do and the things that happens in the morning. So again, thank you. So as you see, the question that is proposed right there for today, that's the question of the day is right here. The question of the day is: have you ever confronted you? Like that's an open and honest question that you can answer. But I'm interested in learning from you. Have you ever confronted you? Like whether you're having a conversation with yourself, sitting down with yourself, writing something about yourself, or looking in the mirror and just having that direct uh, intent of focusing or looking exactly at where you feel the origin of the way you feel or where you think that it's coming from. That is a confrontation, or and I ain't gonna say confrontation because confrontation really sounds like war, but looking at you and expressing yourself to you about you. That's what we're talking about today. You confront you. And again, the question that is proposed is: have you ever confronted yourself? If you have ever confronted yourself, like how did it go? Like what did you say to you? Like how did it work? What was your process? What were the things that you learn about yourself when you begin to confront yourself? Like what was that like for you? I'm interested in learning, from you. What was that like? As we begin to go into our process and tap into um, the lesson plan that we're going to be talking about, as you already know, you're going to get definition of words. And within those definition of words, they're going to be inversions within the definition, just so you can gives it a lot of it gives it a highlighted perspective that you can view and that you can look at for yourself. And that's what we're talking about today. Uh, you confront you. So let's get ready to go into today's conversation. If there's anything that resonate with you, just go ahead and drop it and put it inside the chat. Um, and make sure you take this live and share it on the timeline, just so if there's somebody you know that may need a little bit of information today, just go ahead and share it. You either tag them or share it on your timeline or share it inside of an active Facebook group. All right, so let's begin to jump in this process. So the first definition that I want you to pay attention to today in today's podcast, it says the first definition of confront. It says present itself to someone so that dealing with it cannot be avoided. Again, the first definition said present itself to someone so that dealing with it cannot be avoided. And the inversion that I want you to pay attention to, this one is simple. I mean, you can see it. The inversion I want you to pay attention to is white over red, which is present itself so that dealing with it cannot be avoided. Present itself so that dealing with it cannot be avoided. Because you confronting you is not an avoidance. It is something that you purposefully do in order to learn more about you. Something that you take the time out to do in order to understand, like, what's the origin of my feelings, or what's the origin of my thoughts, what's the origin of my why, and why is it continuing to happen. Or you maybe even get to the point to where you don't like this particular action that is taking place, so you're sitting down with yourself and you're asking yourself, why is this happening, and why does it continue to happen? I want to learn, like, what's the origin. A lot of times is you could be the origin of your fate. You could be the origin of your demise. You could be the origin of your peace. You could be the origin of your passion. You could be the origin of your desires. Because when you look at what are my processes of thought, like, what do I think about when I'm trying to figure things out? Like, if I'm trying to figure something out, do I automatically tell myself that I can't do it? Or do I begin to sabotage myself by telling myself that I'm not ready? Or do I look at it and say, I'm going to figure this out? Like, I will figure this out. Quitting is not an option. I'm figuring this out and I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to take my time and I'm going to no longer avoid my own fear, or no longer avoid this conversation that I need to have with me, because you confront you is an internal conversation that you have with yourself that you don't deny yourself of having. It's easy to deny ourselves of or to deny other people of things, but when we begin to deny ourselves, so I'm gonna be transparent. I didn't want to come in today. I didn't. I'm just been honest. And coming in today was really me confronting me. Peace. Good morning, Miss Myrick. Coming in today was me confronting me. You know, when you've been doing, especially podcasting, if anybody out there who's ever done podcasts, like, sometimes you get you get burned out because you're creating so many different scenarios and subjects and things of that nature, that, like, you're trying to flesh it out of your head in order for you to be okay with still doing it. And that's where I was this morning. I was like, I don't want to come in. I don't want to do it. I don't want to get up. I don't want to go running. I don't want to. I had to look at it, and, like, the one word that was so common was I. I was saying I. And I was honest with myself when I said I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to come in. That's me looking at it from an honest perspective. I'm just being open and honest about what I didn't want to do today. So I had to confront me, like, maybe it's not for you to not come in. Maybe you coming in and expressing yourself is really for someone else to receive. So me confronting me got me here to this moment to where I'm still expressing it, because I had to present it to myself to where I'm not going to avoid my thoughts, my feelings, and my emotions. So I had to open up and say, maybe someone needs to hear what you have to say today. They might be in that same space. They might be having those same conversations, or they have avoided having those conversations. Like we're seeing right here, it presents itself so that dealing with it cannot be avoided. Like, what have you been avoiding? What conversations have you not had with yourself because you felt that you wasn't ready? It's going to take those types of, you're going to have those days. Like I have those days. Hell, I'm not a robot. I'm very much as human as anybody else. I have those thoughts and those feelings. Just today, I wasn't willing to avoid it. And I didn't avoid it. And me not avoiding those conversations allowed me to be here. And now when you go into the second definition of confront, it said to face a situation that makes you uncomfortable. Trust and believe this was true today. It was true today. So my question, like, have you ever faced a situation like in your life, or may even possibly dealing with it right now? Peace. Good morning, Mr. Tony. Like, what do you do in those uncomfortable situations? You're either going to face it or you're going to run away from it. You're either going to deal with it or it's going to deal with you. That's when you get to the point to where not facing these issues that I'm having with myself is not an option. Because facing a situation allows you to learn more about yourself. So when you are faced with another situation, you have the power to deal with it. You have been conditioned to understand it. Again, looking at the definition, I couldn't invert it because everything just hit on all cylinders. To face a situation that makes you uncomfortable, that's when you begin to confront you. That's when you sit down with you. That's when you be honest with you. That's when you understand more about you today than what you did yesterday. Because if yesterday you ran away from your problems, or yesterday you ran away from your fears, or yesterday you just ran away from all responsibility, today's your day to face it. Today's your day to acknowledge that you ran. It's okay that you ran, but now what are you going to do when you standing still, when you standing in that storm and you standing in that fire and you're standing in that situation that takes you to get out of your own way and break through that uncomfortable state? That's where you confront you is going to be at its most intricate point, in its most intricate situation. So now let's go to the next definition, and then we're going to jump and we're going to go into this deep dive. So the third definition of confront is said to deal with something very difficult or unpleasant in a brave and determined way. So now let's understand it this way too. Again, it says to deal with something very difficult or unpleasant in a brave and determined way. Like, what was the last thing that you had to run towards and you were determined about either learning it, determined about fixing it, determined about completing it? Because you're going to have to deal with it. Some situations, the reason why they're difficult a lot of times because we make them difficult. We make them difficult by our unpleasant thoughts. We make them difficult by our own personal fears. We make them difficult by our own personal and self-sabotage. But when we begin to confront ourselves, we get to learn more about ourselves because we're talking to ourselves. and telling ourselves like, you got this, like, wipe those tears, it's okay, acknowledge those emotions, and now it's time to get up and it's time to put in the work. It's time to understand that if I'm determined to do what it is that I have set out for myself, it's going to take these types of thoughts, it's going to make it that much more pleasant to get to the other side. And my fears is no longer a factor. My faith and determination is the factor that's going to push me into the direction that is going to allow me to reach my destination even the more. But it's going to take you confronting you. So let's get ready to go into this deep dive, because I want you to know and understand that you confronting you is such an honest statement. It's a very honest statement, because it's not about anybody else, but it's about you. And it begins to emphasize the importance of self-reflection and personal accountability, because a lot of times we lack personal accountability because we want to hold other people accountable for the things that we feel or felt like they should have done. But have you and can you hold yourself accountable for the same thing that you didn't do for yourself? That's an honest statement. Like, can you hold you accountable the same way as you want to hold someone else accountable? Can you look at your own line or your own procrastinating moments and hold you accountable too, as opposed to pointing the finger at somebody else's inability to be persistent, but you want to not hold you up to those same what's the word, up to those same standards. Because you confronting you, it acknowledges that we're the ones that must face our own action choices and our emotions. I mean, think about it, because the you confront you, that statement really encourages us to examine our own beliefs and behaviors. When we examine our beliefs and behaviors, what motivates us in order to do better is for us to confront us, to talk to us, to communicate to us, to take that internal conversation and that an internal examination, because when that internal examination takes place, it allows us to grow. Because when we confront ourselves, we can identify areas of importance, like we begin to work on our personal development and build stronger foundations and success and happiness, because we're not running away from the things that we're afraid of, but we're examining why it makes us afraid. It allows us to speak to the fear, because we have identified, we're confronting those fears, and asking ourselves, what about this thing that makes me afraid? Like, why do I feel anxious when I get to this point? Because I never complete it, because every time I get to this point, my anxiety set in, so I never finish it. So therefore, it always remains as unfinished business. You have those rollover emotions that will always roll you over and roll you out of the way, because you are always not confronting you the same way as you confront everybody else. But you confronting you even takes a much more deeper meaning when we apply it to our own fears and our own trauma, because we all know that confronting our own fears and addressing our past trauma is a critical step towards personal healing. When we begin to take those steps towards our own personal healing, we must begin by embracing our own self awareness and accepting our fears and weakness, just by being honest. I mean, for real, just by being honest about our own emotions and experiences. It's not what other people's experiences and they're trying to pass their experiences on to you, but what experiences that you have, And how are you working toward those experiences that will begin to implement those new levels of self-improvement? That's you confronting you confronting you and fostering those self-awareness and the self-compassions that you have with yourself. And you have to be willing to grow by giving yourself the grace to learn. Because think about it, you confronting you is you giving yourself grace. Peace. Good morning, Miss Antoinette. You confronting you is you giving yourself grace. Giving yourself grace is acknowledging that it's going to take patience to you in order for you to not just get out of your own way, but in order for you to acknowledge that you are in your own way. I think that's where a lot of the the hurt and the pain comes from, when you don't acknowledge that you are in your own way and you don't even see it that you're in your own way, but you see everybody else that you consider to be in your way, but you don't look at the wall that you've built up, that you put in your own way, that you can't even physically, emotionally, and spiritually see over, because you've built this wall up so much. But when are you going to confront you, that the builder of the wall? But you want to talk about healing and trauma and all this other good stuff, but you won't talk about the trauma that you put on yourself. You won't talk about the elevated wall that you put on yourself. You won't talk about the inner conversations that you silenced yourself. When are you going to confront you? When are you going to be honest with you? Stop looking for those other people to be honest about you, but you are not even ready to be honest about yourself. You're not ready to be honest to yourself. Mm. So, if today's your day for you to confront you, take a minute out of your day and ask yourself, what do I want for myself? What is it about me that I need to acknowledge? Because again, you confronting you is you getting out of your way. You confronting you is knowing the who that you are. I'm smart, I'm bright, I'm brilliant, I'm brave, I'm compassionate, I'm all of these things. But now you confronting you is, I have been afraid. I sometimes I sabotage my own process. Sometimes I am at my own demise. Sometimes I allow my fear to crash the party. Whatever it is, that's you confronting you. Don't always talk about the shiny things that you want to polish up so everybody can see. That's good. That's great. I'm proud of you. Pat yourself on the back. But let's also talk about those things that you don't want anybody else to see, that you've been covering up. That is deep in the back of your closet. Like how many times you've quit this week, how many times that you've denied yourself of healing because you want to stay mad and you want to stay in that space to where that comfort zone is really not a level of comfort. That comfort zone is you hiding behind your fears. All right, I'm gonna leave that alone. But hey, it's Mr. R2 here at Consistency is Currency. Your morning podcast of choice. You confront you. If today's your day to confront you, do it. Don't deny it. Because when you deny yourself, you're denying of what you are about to become. I'm going to say that again, whoever that was for. When you deny yourself of confronting you, you are denying yourself of what you are about to become. You may be about to become free. You may be about to become healed. You may be about to become resilient. You may be about to become great. Whatever it is, you have to see it first. It's not an implementation of what you want others to do for you, but like, can you implement your very own levels of success for you instead of you waiting for somebody else to do it for you or approve by others when you're doing it? No, approve of yourself. All right, that's enough. Hey, man, I appreciate y'all for just being here. I see you tomorrow morning. I might not want to get up tomorrow morning to do it, but trust and believe I'm gonna do it anyway. I confronted me this morning, and that's how you're able to receive today, because I had to confront me, and this is the result. Being open and honest and transparent, telling you my own faults and flaws, and hopefully has reflected on you on some of the things that you might have seen in your own way. So go ahead and drop in the comment section the things that your takeaways from today, and I want to learn about you too. Like, what are you confronting today, or what haven't you confronted that you need to deal with? Yeah, it's mid-March right now, going into April. You probably had a lot of dreams and aspirations about this year, and you still haven't done it. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone. But y'all be blessed, and y'all enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.